Hey, it's John here at Hyped, and I want to say congratulations on joining me for this special training where I want to show you 4 ways to crack the Spotify algorithm and to unlock Discover Weekly for your music. This works for any music genre and it works without begging or paying for any playlist promotion. It's something I've done countless times for my own music, for other artists, so this works, and I want to give you complete clarity on what the actual steps are that you can take right now while you're doing this training to give any of your songs that you've published on Spotify the optimal chance of cracking Discover Weekly. I already have the slides going there in the background on my screen, so let me hop over and we'll jump right in. This didn't actually start as a success story for me. So in the beginning, what would happen is that I posted my music on Spotify, but then nothing happened. And what was so frustrating is that I'm not just an artist using Spotify, but I'm also a listener using Spotify. So every Monday I check out my Discover Weekly, and I was sometimes surprised what kind of bad music made it in Discover Weekly. And it made me just scratch my head and wonder, why not my music? Why is my music not cracking Discover Weekly? And then I have these other tracks here that are maybe half as good as mine, and they get featured in Discover Weekly. So what's going on? And it was really frustrating. And it wasn't until I realized at some point that the Spotify algorithm is not actually like an A&R. Right? Spotify doesn't actually know how good your music is. That's not what the algorithm is built for. Spotify only cares about music that is popular, at least a little bit. And then you can think of the algorithm as this big can of gas that Spotify is pouring on the fire, right? So Spotify is not an A&R. It doesn't go after the quality of the music. It goes after the popularity of your music. And then it's able to pour gas on the fire. But you have to light the fire. In my case, I had to light the fire. This was like a kick in the butt for me. I couldn't just put up my music and wait for Discover Weekly to figure out, hey, that music's good. I had to put the spark to my songs in order to light the fire. And then I could hope for Discover Weekly to come along and pour gas on that fire and really blow up the songs. So when I had that sort of epiphany, I started to geeking out on the algorithm. I really did. I researched everything I could find. I read websites about the algorithm. I spoke to other people who know a thing or two about the algorithm. I found other lectures and lessons just on the Spotify algorithm. And once I was learning all this, I tested different ways to promote my music to see if anything would trigger Discover Weekly. I ran all these different tests. And then finally, I had my first track that broke into Discover Weekly. You can see it here. This track was called Lost in My Mind, the extended mix. I made it on Discover Weekly. And this wasn't even a new track. This track was, already on Spotify for a while when I cracked this. And I was excited. I got hundreds of free listeners and streams. And although that wasn't the world, it was a successful beginning. But then with this first success, to me, what mattered was this question, if it's repeatable, if what I had done to this track, if that would actually allow me to get any other track I wanted onto Discover Weekly as well. So I kept on testing with another track, and then here's what happened. It worked. All of a sudden, I had these 2 tracks on Discover Weekly. So this screenshot that you're seeing right now, it was taken about a month after the other one, after this one. So a month after this one, this has happened. I had 2 songs on Discover Weekly now. And from there, it became easy. And I got track after track on Discover Weekly with now, over 150,000 free streams. And I do want to point out here in the screenshot, it says 10 songs, but if you check your Spotify for Artists, you'll notice that it just caps it at 10. So I did have more songs on Discover Weekly, but whenever you have a playlist that includes more than 10 songs, Spotify will only say 10 songs. So this is just a limitation of Spotify for Artists. So another thing I want to turn your attention on here, since we're talking about the algorithm, right? I know the main purpose of this training is all Discover Weekly, but I want to point out one other thing here, which is Spotify Radio, right? Spotify radio is a little bit underrated because so many of us music artists, we're always excited about Discover Weekly. But in the grand scheme of things, most music artists that I speak to, they even get more streams and even a higher ratio of streams per listeners from radio. And the same is true for me. You can see that from radio, I got over 100,000 listeners and over 300,000 streams. So it's been significantly more impactful than Discover Weekly. But, that just as a side note, if you apply the steps that I'll teach you in this training, you'll be able to optimize your pickup for Discover Weekly. But don't be surprised if you're going to get even more results out of Spotify radio along the way. So hopefully I've shown you that this works. Now let's look at how to do this. And it all starts here with the number one principle for success. And it's this: get your music in front of people who are most likely to love it, and at the same time keep your music away from people who are most likely to dislike it. And here's why this is such an important principle for success when you're trying to crack the Spotify algorithm. The Spotify music recommendation engine, which is what we're talking about when we refer to the algorithm, really consists of three different pieces. The first piece is an audio analysis, right? This is when Spotify goes in and analyzes what instruments are in your track, what's sort of the key, what's the mood, all those kinds of things that can extract from the audio analysis. There's nothing you have to do about this. This just happens automatically. Then Spotify also has natural language processing. This is where Spotify searches the internet for where music is written up and written about, and there are music blogs that feature specific artists, feature specific songs. So Spotify goes in there and the algorithm sort of reads these articles to pick up what's been written about these. Now, unless you have really deep pocket and you're ready to drop thousands of dollars on, a PR agency for your music, there isn't that much you can do about this natural language processing. So it's not something we're going to mainly focus on here. What we want to focus on is this third piece to the Spotify algorithm, which is collaborative filtering. So you may have heard this term. This is something that was mainly made popular through Netflix, right? When Netflix came up with their movie recommendation or their TV show recommendations on their platform, they used collaborative filtering. It's a big word, but the concept behind it is really simple. So let me explain what it means. Let's say you have two listeners, listener 1 and listener 2. And listener 1 liked several songs they listened to. Among others, they liked song A, song B, and song C. Listener 2 also liked song A, also liked song B, and also liked song C. But they also liked song D. So what the algorithm is going to do is it's going to say, hey, both of these listeners, they seem to have very similar taste profiles, right? They both liked song A, song B, and song C. Listener 2 also liked song D, and maybe that's the song listener 1 never discovered, never listened to. So what the collaborative filtering algorithm is going to do, it's going to recommend song D to listener 1 because the chances that listener 1 likes that song based on their taste profile are really high. And what that means for your music is that the better Spotify knows the taste profile of your fans, the greater your chances of getting picked up by the algorithm. And that means the algorithm needs to learn who your dream fans are. And those are fans who like your music, they save your music, they stream your music on repeat, right? The algorithm needs to learn what else your fans love, and this is data that Spotify has, and who you sound similar to. Which again means what other artists do your fans listen to? And it comes down to this. It's all about what Spotify calls positive signals such as track likes and saves, right? Whenever a fan is on Spotify, they listen to your track and they like it, meaning they save it to their liked tracks folder in their music library. That is a positive signal. Spotify knows, hey, that was a great match between a specific piece of music and a specific individual, a specific music fan. Another positive signal are repeat streams, right? If somebody listens to your track and they love it so much that they listen to it again right away, or maybe they come back an hour later and listen to it again and again, repeat streams let Spotify know, hey, that was again a great match between a piece of music and that individual. More positive signals here. User playlist. If somebody saves your track to their playlist, that is a positive signal to Spotify. And another one are artist profile follows. If somebody listens to your song, comes over to your Spotify profile and starts following you, that is a positive signal. So at a high level, the key to cracking the algorithm is to deliver these 4 types of positive signals to Spotify for your track. You need to maximize your likes and saves. You need to maximize repeat streams. You need to maximize your addition of that track to user playlists. And you need to make sure as many fans as possible follow you after discovering your music. And I'm going to show you how to do this step by step. So this is what we're going to get into right now. But I also want to contrast what we're going to talk about next to playlist promotion, right? I said this works without begging or paying for playlist promotion. And this is really important because in fact, playlist promotion oftentimes is the wrong strategy to cracking the algorithm. And there are a couple reasons for this. First of all, if your track's on a playlist, listeners on that playlist, they are not there for your music. They are there for the playlist. And that means they're generally a little bit less excited about any one particular track on the playlist. The chances are that they listen to the playlist in the background passively, doing something else. Maybe they're at the gym working out, maybe they're driving in their car, maybe they're at work listening to music in the background. And while they might enjoy the music that is somewhere in the background, chances are that they're not likely to come over and save a track, not likely to hit repeat and stream the track again. It's unlikely that they're adding it to a user playlist, and it's unlikely that they come over and follow you. What is in fact more likely on a playlist is that people skip songs. If they come across a song that doesn't keep their attention very much, they skip it. And that is a negative signal to Spotify. So as there are positive signals, there are also negative signals. Negative signals is whenever somebody browses away from your music, skips it, and doesn't even stream 30 seconds, so it doesn't even count as a stream to Spotify. All of those are ways where Spotify just figures out, hey, there was not a great match between a specific piece of music and between a listener. So you need to maximize positive signals and you need to minimize negative signals. And that is exactly the problem with playlist promotion. Playlist promotion is in fact more likely to give you negative signals and less likely to give you positive signals. And it has nothing to do with the size of the playlist. That's just in the nature of things. So I'm going to show you a much better way of getting your music ready to crack the Spotify algorithm. And you might be wondering, well, John, how would I do this? How can I figure out this maze of positive signals and negative signals? And not to worry, I'm going to walk you through this step by step. I'm even going to share my screen here a couple times so I can show you what tools and what tips and tricks I use to make this happen. So it starts here. Step 1, pick the song you want on Discover Weekly. This sounds probably pretty straightforward. You can pick any of your songs. Any of your songs will work. It doesn't have to be a new release. All that matters is that you can focus your promotion on that song, right? And this is the purpose of this step. So rather than saying, hey, I'm happy with any of my tracks hitting Discover Weekly, and so I'm just going to promote everything a little bit, I want you to pick a song that you can put your energy behind, because that increases your chances of getting there. And what I recommend is that if you can, this is going to be easiest if you pick one of your biggest hits. This could be your most popular track on Spotify or the one with the highest save rate. So why are we going after the highest save rate? If you have a track that has a higher save rate than most of your other tracks, which means more people relative to the number of people who listen to the track save the track, that means that is probably a bigger hit, right? That resonated better with your audience. And if we want to put more promotional efforts behind any track in order to crack Discover Weekly, we want to pick the track that has the greatest chance, right? That's the fastest horse or the best athlete already, so to speak. So let me show you how you can find some of this out in case you're wondering, hey John, how would I even know which of my tracks has the highest save rate? So I'm going to hop into Spotify for Artists real quick and show you. So I'm at Spotify for Artists right now, and I went to the music tab. I see all my songs here, and I switched this to since 2015, right? I'm not going to show the last 7 days. I don't want to see the last 28 days. I want to see since 2015, which is the longest time window possible. The reason why I want to see the longest time window is that the save rate of tracks changes over time. Chances are if you pick the last 7 days, it's going to be your newest tracks that have the highest save rate, because older tracks, even though they might be popular and they might have the highest absolute save rate, they are oftentimes visited by fans who saved them in the past. And any fan who already saved your track, they can't save it a second time. So if you look at a short time frame here, it skews the numbers a little bit, and that's why I recommend you pick since 2015. And then what you got to do is click this little download data as a CSV file button over here, because unfortunately we can't do this analysis right on this page. We see all the raw data, but we can't tell Spotify to show us the ratio for any of these metrics. So we're going to download this real quick. Okay, now that it's downloaded, what I'm going to do is open this in Excel. If you don't have Excel, you can also open it in a Google Sheet and just follow along with the same steps. All right, I just opened the CSV file. We're in Excel now, and we're going to see the same data here that we saw inside of Spotify for Artists, but now we have the ability to add formulas to the sheet in order to save rate, or sometimes I even like to look at the rate of streams to listeners as an indicator for popularity. So let's start with the save rate. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say equals the number of saves divided by the number of listeners the track had. I'm going to pick listeners as opposed to streams because I'm interested in how many people who listened to the track at any point in time saved it. And I'm going to hit enter, and you're going to get this fractional number here. So what I'm going to do is click on percentage and expand this a little bit. All right, so now I know that the save rate for this particular song here is about 12%. And if I want to show this for all my other tracks, all I'm going to do is drag this all the way to the bottom of the sheet. And let me add one more here. Okay, so now it automatically calculates the save rate for all these tracks. And then I said the other popularity indicator that I like to use sometimes is divide the number of streams by the number of listeners. And this tells me how many times listeners of a particular song came back to listen to the song again. So the higher this number is, the more engaged that audience was, and the more frequently or the more often they came back to the song. So it's a good indicator of how well that song resonated with my fans. And we're going to shorten this a little bit, and then I'm going to do the same thing and drag this all the way down. There it goes. Okay. And so let's call this here save rate, and we call this stream rate. All right, so now that we have those numbers, what we want to do is we want to order these columns by those numbers. So what I'm going to do is highlight the first row, come over to data, click on filter, and we organize it by the save rate or ordered by the save rate. I'm going to say descending. And this is what I see. So now I have the tracks with the highest save rate on top, and then it just declines. Now you might say, okay, clearly you have a winner here, and while there is a winner, this is a winner on a relatively small set of listeners and saves. So I'm actually going to disregard the tracks that have a very small number of streams. And in this particular case, those are very old tracks that I released many years before I started taking my presence on Spotify seriously. So these tracks were never really promoted, and they never really got a lot of attention. And I don't want to make a decision on just this low number of listeners. It's not really statistically relevant. What I'm looking for are tracks that have at least, 1,000 or more listeners, and see what I can do with those. So Heatwave, save rate of 23.7%, stream rate of 2.02. That's pretty good. I also have telling me, okay, that's not all that bad. And so if I just look down here, this one also looks good. Obviously the save rate is a little bit lower, but the stream rate is really strong at 4.0. So look, there is no right or wrong here, but any of those tracks that you find that generally have a higher save rate and a higher stream rate, those are good picks to proceed with and then move on to the next step. So for me, Back to Me would probably be a pretty good bet. Awakening would be a good bet. Telling Me is a little bit lower on the stream rate. Heatwave, really nice on the save rate, stream rate a little bit lower. But any of these tracks would be good options to try to push them into Discover Weekly. So pick the one you're most excited about, and then we're going to move on to the next step. And that is find your dream fans. All right, so you might be wondering, what are dream fans? Dream fans are listeners that are already in love with your specific music genre and style. And because they already love your sound of music, it is easiest for them to get excited about your music. Right? Imagine that you put your music in front of somebody who's a diehard fan of your specific music genre, your niche genre, your specific sound. It's just going to be very, very easy for them to fall in love with you as an artist because they're already right there with their music taste. And that's why these fans are most likely to give you positive signals on your music in Spotify. And sometimes I like to think about it this way. Let's imagine you drove an ice cream truck, right? You're in the business of selling ice cream out of your ice cream truck. And you have a choice. You could either park your ice cream truck in front of a fitness center and hope to sell ice cream to people going in and out of the fitness center, or you could drive your ice cream truck and park it in front of an elementary school, right? Where kids ages 6 to 12, 13, 14 go to school, right? Park yourself there and hope you're selling some ice cream. In this case, where is your most captive audience? Where are they already hanging out? In this particular case, chances are that you said, of course I want to park myself in front of the school. People coming out of the fitness center, very unlikely that they want to buy an ice cream. Some might, but the majority probably won't. But the kids, during their breaks or come the end of the school day, they're going to be lining up in front of the ice cream truck. So you want to think about your music and your fans in the same way, right? If the ice cream truck was your music, where would you park your music? In front of what audience that already exists would you park your music in order to have fans just lining up for your songs? The easiest way to do this for music that I've found is to identify artists that sound similar to you, because their fans can be your fans, right? Fans that already congregate around artists that sound very similar to you are most likely to immediately fall in love with your music if you can just put it in front of them. And that's because they're already there. And if you don't know who your sound-alike artists are yet, then there are a couple of things you can do. You can use your existing fans, right? You can literally send them an email. And this is something that I did in the past and was pretty successful. I just said, hey, who do you think I sound alike? And a lot of the fans on my email list that just replied and let me know what other artists they compared myself to. And that gave me an idea of where to find more dream fans. Now, if you don't have an email list or you don't have a fan base that you can go out to and ask, then use your friends, use your family, ask them. They'll have an opinion about your music. They'll likely know lots of other music, maybe in the same genre, so they can give you some ideas. And another thing you can do here, another trick, is you can use Spotify Song Radio for ideas. And let me show you how that works real quick. So I'm in Spotify right now, and let's say the song that I had picked in the prior step to promote for Discover Weekly was this one, Back to Me. And I struggled with figuring out whose fans would be interested in my track. What you can do is you can come to any kind of song, click on these three little dots here and say show song radio, go to song radio. And then what Spotify does, it puts together a playlist of songs that it believes would be liked by listeners of your song. And then what you do is you just scroll through this list and you see what other artists are showing up here. And usually what I try to do is I look out for artists that show up multiple times. So here I see Earth and Days, Grounder, Block and Crown. And you can check some of these out. Block and Crown, much bigger than I am, 300,000 monthly listeners. So that's good if these are bigger artists. That means they clearly have a sizable fan base. So if I can tap into this, that'd be amazing. So you have Block and Crown. Just scroll through this. More Earth and Days. That is good. Clyde Rouge. What else? Elias and Barrientos. I think these guys are also pretty big. Yeah, almost 400,000 monthly listeners. So that's good. That's a good catch. And Low Stepper, that's a good one. Almost 800,000 monthly listeners. So that's good to know. So you scroll through this list, see which names show up over and over again, and note those down. Those might be artists who are already attracting fans that will be dream fans for you. And this is really useful information as we continue this journey. Which brings us to step number 3, use a smart link to maximize fan quality. So here's what this is about. I recommend that you put a smart link between your audience and your music. And I recognize, yes, this sounds like the opposite of what most artists are trying to do, who want to use direct links or even deep links, right? Most artists, they want a fan to click on a link just once and ideally be streaming your song on Spotify instantly. Because the idea is that whenever you ask them to click a second time, or any other delay or any other action that you put between a fan and the song will mean some fans will drop out, and you don't want to do this if you just want to maximize the number of listeners and potential streams that you're getting into Spotify. But there's a different perspective to this here. Because you're asking for this extra click on the smart link, it acts as an important filter to weed out listeners with low intent that are more likely to leave negative signals on your music. So let's say you set up a deep link for your song in Spotify. And for those of you who don't know yet what a deep link is, deep links are links that you can set up to open a song directly in a third-party app. So it doesn't just open it in the web browser, it actually goes and opens up the song in the actual application. But let's say you have lots of people who might be clicking on your link by accident. They don't want to listen to your music right then and there. They don't know where this link takes them. They just found it somewhere. They clicked on it, and all of a sudden Spotify opens and starts playing the song. They might not even be in a position where they, can listen to that music. So what happens is they immediately pause or skip or shut down Spotify. And then what does that mean? That means those are all negative signals to the Spotify algorithm. Right? So yes, it was easier for listeners to get to the song on Spotify, but it also meant that a lot of traffic came to the track of people who didn't even fully intend to listen to the full song right now or engage with the song. And then whenever they skip, whenever they close Spotify, whenever they browse away, those are all negative signals to the algorithm. So what the smart link does, the fact that it's just asking for this extra click to come to the song in Spotify, it's a quality filter. Because you can assume that anybody who clicked on wherever you promoted the song, then came to the smart link, clicked on Spotify again in order to then open Spotify and listen to the song. So they took 2 actions to get there. They come with higher intent. They are more likely to listen to the full song and to engage with the song, save it, add it to a playlist, follow you, and all those positive signals that you want to see for the Spotify algorithm. So I have another slide here to sort of represent this visually. So instead of what I'm showing you here at the top, sending the audience directly into Spotify, do this, right? Send your audience to a smart link and then send them into Spotify. And there are actually a couple tips or tricks of how I would set up this smart link, which I want to show you real quick. I'm going to use Hyped for this. You can use another smart link software if you want to. I obviously, love Hyped. I'm biased, but the same tips or tricks would apply. So let me walk you through this real quick. So I just went to hypedit.com. You can see it here at the top, right there. This is the homepage here. If you've never used Hyped before, you want to give it a shot just to click along as I show you how I would set up a smart link. What you can do is just click on the green Get Started for Free button here. Create a free account real quick. It's going to take you like 30 seconds. Or if you've used Hyped before, you just come in the top right corner here and log in real quick. All right, now I'm at my dashboard, and what I want to do is I want to set up a smart link. So in HypedIt, I'm going to go to share music, because a smart link is a way of sharing music with an audience. And then from the menu of options and tools, just select the smart link. And now all we got to do is walk through those different steps on this page. So I'm going to create this smart link for my track Back to Me that I showed you on Spotify before. So I'm just going to hop over into Spotify. I'm going to grab the song link. And this is important. You want to grab the song link. You do not want to grab the album link, right? When it comes to the Spotify algorithm, when it comes to Discover Weekly, Spotify Radio, and the like, it's all about songs. It's not about the releases. So let me show you the difference. The Spotify album for Back to Me has 2 tracks on it, the short version of the track and the long version. So what I do not want to do is set up a smart link with the album link, right? I could come here and copy the album link and use that to set up the smart link. But I do not want to do this, because if I do this, I send fans to this page. I don't know which fans are going to stream the short version of the track or who's going to stream the long version of the track. So all my energy, all my efforts are going to divide across 2 tracks, right? Some fans are going to save this track, some fans are going to save this track, and it makes it harder for me to ignite that fire that I want the algorithm to pour gas on. So instead of picking the album, you want to make sure that you are picking the one particular song that you want to promote. And in my case, I want to do that with the short version of the song. So I'm going to grab the song link, and then I'm going to hop back into HypedIt, paste this here. I'm going to say next. All right, HypedIt is asking me what genre this track is. You can pick whatever genre is closest to the genre of your track, so I wouldn't stress too much about it. This has something to do with the calculation of the HypedIt charts, those good things that can give additional exposure, but don't overthink it. I will pick Deep House. The title of the song is already pre-populated. The design is also pre-populated. You have a light scheme, you have a dark color scheme, you can do custom colors where literally you can customize the color of every individual item on this page, but I'm just going to roll with the light scheme for now and move on to the next step. So this is where I pick the buttons, the links that show up on that actual smart link, and by default HypedIt went out and found the song on Spotify, on SoundCloud, on iTunes, Apple Music, Deezer, Napster, what have you, long list. Now, if you are trying to crack the algorithm on Spotify, it's really important that you focus and concentrate as much of your fan traffic on that track in Spotify. So if you put out a smart link to the world that gives fans an option to click on a button that brings them into Spotify to listen to the track, but also on Apple Music and maybe on SoundCloud, it means that you'll divide up your traffic into all those different destinations, right? Some people will go to Spotify, some will go to Apple Music, some will go to SoundCloud. And that means you're losing traffic that you would have loved in Spotify to these other platforms. And you don't even know, maybe some of the people on SoundCloud, they would have had Spotify. They just prefer to listen to the song on SoundCloud that moment. But had there only been the Spotify link, they would have still loved to listen to your song, and they would have done it on Spotify. So what I recommend, again, some of this is not intuitive, but it really helps to maximize the results, is that you delete everything else. So check out all the other links here and click the little trash bin, and we're going to take all of those out. The only link that we want to have standing here is the Spotify link. And there's some other things you can do. You can have, a save option show up for your fans, lots of good stuff here. But I'm going to keep it the way it is right now. And I'm going to just use the plain link over into Spotify. I'm going to say next. I can customize the URL of this track. We can say this is John Gold Back to Me. I have a custom domain connected to HypedIt. So if you come here and you have no custom domain connected yet, it's going to look like this. So what you could do in this case, it's say, hey, this is DJ John Gold Back to Me, and customize the link that way. So this is going to be the link I'm going to be able to share with my fans. Then go next. There's another important trick here. By default, the SmartLink will show an audio preview of your song. If you share your SmartLink in places where the audience has already listened to a preview of the song, I highly recommend that you turn this off and you say no source selected. Why? Because the audio preview acts as a distraction, and it's just a way for them to satisfy their appetite for your song before going into Spotify and listening to the song there. So again, here's how I think about it. Let's say you use the SmartLink to email your fans. Your email will not have an audio preview, of course. So if people click on the link in the email to come to the SmartLink, they need an audio preview to make up their mind whether they want to listen to the full song. So for email, it would be a good idea to include the audio preview and then select Spotify here. But if you're using the SmartLink in a different kind of setting, for example, let's say an ad campaign, right? Maybe you're running Instagram or Facebook ads, or maybe it's just social posts on Instagram and Facebook where the post itself is already a video that includes the music, then do turn this off here. No audio preview. It'll mean you have more people clicking through the SmartLink into Spotify. All right, so important trick. And then you say next. I'm a fan of ads. I'm a fan of building audiences using the pixel. So in my case, I would just add my Facebook pixel, my conversion API, and my Google Ads tech to this. If you have run Facebook ads before, if you have run Google Ads before, this is a really handy tool, and you can set it up in a couple seconds right here within Hyped. And then I'm going to say next. And I can add a note here. So in this case, I'll say this is the training SmartLink because I set this up for this particular training, and then hit create. And then that SmartLink is ready to go. I can click on it and you can see what it looks like. So this is actually exactly what we want. This SmartLink only has one thing to do for fans. Note, there is no audio preview here. There's nothing that would distract somebody. All it does, it shows people they're in the right place because it uses the cover art of the song. And then there's this one button into Spotify, which is all fans can click. And that means that it maximizes conversion. It means that the highest number of fans coming to this link will go into Spotify. So we get this quality filter, and at the same time, we're maximizing the number of conversion here, which is exactly what we want to do. And now that brings us to step number 4. We now have to put that SmartLink that we just created in front of our dream fans. And there are principally 5 ways in which we can do this. And it's these here: email, search, social, referral, and ads. Those are the 5 different types of traffic that principally exist online and that you can use to promote your music. And let me talk about these real quick. First is email. If you have an email list with an audience, right, fans who already subscribed to your email newsletter or to your email list, right, that's an excellent promo tool because you can then send your SmartLink to that audience. They can click it, they can go into Spotify, engage with your music there, right? A perfect way to get instant attention and instant positive signals to any song that you have in Spotify. But of course, it requires an email list, and not every artist has built an email list. And that's why there is a certain limitation. And another limitation obviously is in the size of the email list, right? You can't email more people than you have on the list. So if you have 100 fans on your list, you are limited to sending a maximum of those 100 people over to your music on Spotify, which may or may not be enough to light the fire that the algorithm wants to see. But it's certainly something that becomes more and more valuable as your email list grows. Then we have search. Search is next. Search traffic can be extremely powerful, but the problem is if you're not already famous, chances are nobody's searching for you. So for most of us independent music artists, this is not a great way to drive traffic. So there isn't a whole lot of stuff we can do with search. Next up is social. Social can be really powerful, right? Because you can target your dream fans, right? The audiences of these sound-alike artists that you identified. You can target them on social. You can create posts that engage those kinds of audiences. You can use hashtags or link to other sound-alike artists and make sure your posts are seen by the right audience. The challenge that I have with social personally is it usually takes a lot of time, and the results are always a little uncertain. Some posts might perform really well. Some others that you spend hours maybe inventing and then crafting and posting might fall flat and not give you the results that you were hoping. And that's why social takes a long time to master, time that I oftentimes don't have. I release a new song and I want results right then and there. I don't want to wait. I don't want to build buzz on social over the course of weeks and months. I just don't have the patience. I want results a little faster. That's why I don't do a lot of social. But certainly if you have a lot of time at your hands, then this can be a powerful strategy. The one limitation with social, again, similar to email, it's somewhat capped by the audience size that you have on social. Yes, sometimes posts can go viral and they're seen by a lot more people than you actually have in your audience, but most of the times your posts are only being seen by a fraction of your audience. So if you want to get your music in front of 100,000 fans, but you only have 1,000 followers, maybe on Instagram or on your Facebook page or on TikTok or wherever, it's going to be hard to reach more people than that. Next up is referral traffic. Referral traffic is when somebody else puts your music in front of their audience. Prime example are music blogs that write about music of various artists and therefore put the music in front of the audience of the blog. And in the case of Spotify, playlist promotion is the same thing, right? A playlister has an audience on their playlist and they put music on their playlist, which puts it in front of the audience of people who listen to that playlist. But as we talked about earlier, the challenge with that playlist promotion is that it's more likely to give you negative signals on your tracks and less likely to give you positive signals to the algorithm compared to other promotion types. And that's why it's not usually very effective at cracking the algorithm. Now, the fifth type here of ways to get your SmartLink in front of your dream fans are ads. This is what I love personally. I love the ads game. Ads are extremely effective at getting a laser targeted audience of dream fans in front of your music, and you can do it at any scale. You don't need any followers, you don't need any existing audience. If you master the ads game, you can get your music in front of hundreds of thousands and millions of people who are fans in your particular genre and very likely to engage with your music on Spotify and get you those positive signals. So when I showed you earlier that I got my first track on Discover Weekly, my second, and then track after track again, this is what I used. I used ads in order to connect my music to the perfect audience for my songs. Now, if this is something that sounds interesting, right, mastering ads in order to get your music maximum exposure, and it's something you're looking to get help with, then I do have a training program specifically on how to use ads in order to get in front of millions of fans on Spotify. It's called the Spotify Growth Engine. I'm going to leave a link somewhere around this video here. So if the ads game specifically is something you're interested in, then you can check this out and you might like it. And now that we're generating traffic, now that we're putting our SmartLink in front of our dream fans, step 5 is to track our progress. And what I recommend is that you use a platform such as Music Stacks to track your track's popularity score. The popularity score is something that is internal to Spotify, and they haven't, published the exact formula they use to calculate that popularity score, but this can be an early indicator of how close you are to making it onto Discover Weekly. What I noticed with my music and with music of lots of other artists that I had a chance to coach through the Spotify Growth Engine is that most tracks seem to crack Discover Weekly when their popularity score rises to somewhere between 20 and 30, or obviously higher. And let me show you real quick what this looks like. So I went to Music Stacks right now. It's a free website that you can use, and I'm gonna look for John Gold Back to Me, which is that specific song I've been using throughout this training here. So let me see what comes up. All right, this is it. That's the short version of the song. So I can click here, and then Music Stacks shows me what the popularity score is. So this track is currently on Discover Weekly, and you can see that the popularity score matches that range at 35% right now. The popularity score itself is something that updates every 2 days only. So no need to come here every day or even multiple times a day. You will not see it move. But I recommend that while you're pushing one of your songs onto Discover Weekly, come here every second day to see what promotion you do and how it moves the popularity score. And I want to show you that this works, right? The steps that I taught you in this training, they do really work. Let me show you the results that other artists have gotten with those steps. Here's Fred, and he said after only 1 month of running the Spotify Growth Engine, we are on Discover Weekly, Release Radar, Spotify Radio on repeat. So 4 algorithmic playlists cracked after 1 month with their new release. Here's Somi. Somi said, I launched my new artist profile in August, released first single 3 weeks ago. Last week we hit Release Radar, first algorithmic playlist. Today we just made Discover Weekly. So 3 weeks in, and Somi cracked Discover Weekly with his song. Here's Austin, and he said, 1 week of using John's method generated 12,000 streams. Zuma triggered Discover Weekly and ramped up. And he took the screenshot here when Zuma had 150,000 streams. So great success for Austin here. And I love this one. Here's Sylvain. He said, I have 8 tracks on Discover Weekly. And then he says, and some of them are from my album that came out last August. So I know the screenshot is a little bit blurry here, but he got 8 tracks on Discover Weekly using this method over and over again. And it even works on old tracks. Right? We talked about that a little bit earlier, but you do not need a new release. You can really light that fire on any of your tracks. It doesn't really matter how long it's been out on Spotify. All right, so what I want to do last is here, I want to do a quick summary again of the steps so you have it all on one page so it's easy to execute. Step 1, pick the song you want on Discover Weekly. Step 2, identify your dream fans. Step 3, use a smart link to maximize your fan quality. Step 4, put your smart link in front of your dream fans. And again, if ads is something you want to use here, check out the Spotify Growth Engine. It's a training where I show you how to master the ad game and literally get in front of millions of diehard fans in your genre. Super effective. And then step 5 here is track your song's popularity score to see how close you are to that Discover Weekly threshold. And last but not least, if you enjoyed this training and you're looking for more trainings that teach you how to reach and get more fans for your music on various platforms, whether it's Spotify or whether it's YouTube, whether you want to grow an email list or whether you want to sell more music and merch anything, then you can come to the Academy link inside of Hyped It. You got to be logged into Hyped It to see this, but there's the Academy link on the top. Click that link and you'll see all the trainings that I'll have available for you. And that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed this training. I wish you all the best and success for your music, and I look forward to seeing you in another video. Cheers!